So if you've ever tried to use tileable textures in 3D software like Maya or Blender or anything else out there, you might have noticed that they work really well, but there's a slight issue with them. If you have a really large surface like a brick wall or a grassy field, you can only repeat that tile so many times before you start to notice very obvious repetition. The human brain is really good at picking up on this repetition, and you'll see that pattern very clearly, and so will everyone else, and it's kind of annoying, right? So how can you actually fix that? Well, you could just get a much larger scale texture, but that will still have the same problem eventually if something gets bigger and bigger. So we need to find another way to fix that doesn't just rely on a bigger image texture. Here I have a brick wall that I'm rendering in the scene, and you can see it looks pretty good. It's a nice texture file, but you can very quickly pick up on the repetitive elements. If you look here, there's a little black brick, and just above it there's this brick here which has this little black line and a dot. You'll see that repeating here, and so on, you know? And if we were to scale this texture up even more to have a larger scale brick wall, it would become even more obvious. So the reason for this is because this image texture is actually quite small. So if we wanted to use this for anything that's actually the size of a building, you're very quickly going to notice repetition. So what we can do to fix that is if we open up the Hypershade editor, we have our brick material here, and we've got our normal map or roughness and our diffuse plugged in. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and duplicate this material. Select the set here and then go to edit and then duplicate shading network, okay? That's going to create a exact copy of our material. I'm just going to call this brick material 02. And you might be wondering where exactly I'm going with this, because we're just using the same material. Well, we're going to create an AI mix shader. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that this shader allows us to combine two materials. We're going to plug the out color of both shaders into the mix shader. And then we're going to apply this mix shader to our brick wall. And to begin with, we're not going to notice any difference because the materials are exactly the same. But what we're then going to do is we're going to, under 2D textures, we're going to take a noise material and we're going to plug the out color red of this into the mix. And again, you'll see that nothing has changed whatsoever. If we place a AI color correct node between the diffuse and the material of our secondary brick shader, okay, like so, and then we start to adjust the exposure of this secondary material, perhaps making it darker, you can see we're now getting some patchiness. It's the same brick material, but it's darker in tone. We could perhaps even increase the saturation a little bit to give that a bit more of a different color. And right now this is looking a bit all over the place. But if I was to then go ahead and adjust this noise material, perhaps reducing the frequency, you can now see we've created a bit more of an interesting material, right? The repetition is still there, but it's way less noticeable now because we have a bit more breakup. And you can adjust this essentially to your heart's content. We could, in fact, make this a little brighter instead. So that's just one quick way to add a bit more interest and break up some of that repetitiveness. The alternative is we could even use a completely different brick texture. And then perhaps let's change this to a different brick material altogether. And you can see now that I've swapped out the brick material to a different one, we're now getting even more interesting variation, and the repetitiveness is a lot less noticeable. And you can use this same technique on essentially any material, from grass to brick to metals to woods, and anything that can combine relatively well. And you can mix in different types of noise. You could use fractals, for example, or any other texture that's going to give you black and white information like ramps. And you can very quickly reduce that repetitiveness. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that's been helpful. A bit of a short video today, but if you have any questions at all, please do let me know. Any suggestions as well, please do let me know. I always love to hear those. And yeah, like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.